Alright, 6th graders, this is Math Lesson 93, Turning Fractions into Percents, Part 2. If you remember the last time we talked about turning fractions into percents, we showed you two different ways, and today we're going to look at a third way. But if you can see from here, the last time that we talked about making fractions percents, we told you that an easy way to do it is simply to make an equivalent fraction with the denominator of 100. So if I'm looking at that first example, 3/5, all I really need to do is make an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100. So of course, when we do this, we know that we multiply both numerator and denominator by the same number. But what number times 5 will give me 100? Of course, 5 goes into 10 2 times, and then we've got that 0 there, so 5 times 20 equals 100, and what we do to one, we must do to the other. So 3 times 20, of course, if we ignore the 0, the shortcut, 3 times 2 is going to give me 6, and 3 times 0, of course, is 0. So we've got 60 over 100, and remember that percent means hundredths, which is why we turn this into a fraction over 100. So 60 over 100 is equal to 60%. Another way that we showed you, and this wasn't in the book, but this was kind of a way that I learned it, so just another option for you if that works. But if it's not simple for you, then by all means you don't have to use it, but just kind of showing you what else is out there. Is the second option was changing a fraction to a decimal, and the way that we do that is we simply take the numerator and we divide it by the denominator. Remember, making that whole number with the decimal equivalent, so 3.0, bring up that decimal point. 5 goes into 30 times, but 5 can go into 30 6 times. 6 times 5, of course, we know is 30. So if I worked it out, 30 minus 30 is 0. And then we simply change that decimal point into a percent, because percent means hundredth, so we move that decimal point 2 places to the right, and 0.6 becomes 60%. Now the new way that we're going to show you, and so this is a third option, any one of these options you're welcome to use. The whole point is basically use what you understand, use what works best for you. So this third option is we're going to take that fraction, which is 3/5, and we're simply going to multiply it by 100%. So since that's a whole number, in order to multiply fractions, we need to have a fraction. So we turn that into an improper fraction. Of course, numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So 3 times 100 is going to give me 300, and it's a percent. 5 times 1 is going to give me 5. So it's 300% over 5. In other words, 300% divided by 5. So 5 goes into 3 0 times, but it can go 6 times into 30. 6 times 5 is 30. 30 minus itself, of course, is 0. 0 compared to 5 is less, so that means we know that we can bring down the 0. 5 goes into 0 0 times. 0 minus itself, of course, is going to give us 0. So we're left with 60, and since that's a percent, we've got 60%. So each of these ways, you notice, they all give us the same exact answer. If I rewrote this answer, I'll bring it up to here, and I'll write 60%, and we always circle or box the final answer. So there we have 3 different options to find the same answer, and again, really what it comes down to is your preference and what you're comfortable with. So any one of these ways you're welcome to use. Alright, so using that again, we've got a fraction 1/3. I'm not going to continue doing the first and second ways because this lesson is mainly about doing that third way. So I'm just going to jump right into it. Okay, I will at least show you the work, but I'm not going to work it out. If I wanted to do it the first way, make an equivalent fraction with a denominator of 100, it would look like this. That would be my work. If I wanted to do it the way that I was familiar with it, I'm going to take 1 and divide that by 3. Of course, we're going to annex the decimal point and the 0. But we're going to bypass those two ways, and we're just going to go right into multiplying the fraction by 100%. So I'm going to rewrite 1/3, and I'm going to multiply by 100%. Now remember, since this is a whole number, we need to make it an improper fraction, all over 1. And then we simply multiply numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. So 1 times 100, of course, is 100%. 3 times 1 is 3. So we've got 100% divided by 3. So we'll go 100. I should write that percent sign divided by 3 there. Okay, so 3 goes into 0. Sorry, 3 goes into 1, 0 times. Into 10. It goes 3 times. Let's use a little bit of short division. 3 times 3 we know is 9, so we're going to do this work mentally. 10 minus 9 is 1, so I'll just write that 1 up here. And 3 goes into 10 again, 3 times, and we're left with 1. Now at this point, you have two different options that you can do. Since we've got a remainder, we can either write it as a fraction, and just go 33 1/3%, or because I tend to prefer decimals, what I would do, and I'll rewrite it over here, I'll just copy down my work that I had 0, 3, and 3, is I would simply annex my decimal point here, and annex a 0, so 3 goes into 10, again 3 times, and it's still going to keep going, but that's okay. I can just work it to that place, and we would say 33 1/3, or 0.3%. Yet another option for you, you can also round this off if you'd like. So the 3 different options that we have, I'll write it up here, is we can either say 33 1/3%, or we can say 33.3%, or we can still say, by rounding it off, 33%. So I'll erase this here. Any one of those would be your answer. Hopefully that's not confusing to you if I'm giving you these options, but every single one of those are the same. I like decimals, so I tend to go this way, but if fractions are easier for you, you're welcome to use the fraction form too. Alright, so we've got a couple more examples. I'm going to do the same kinds of things here. Alright, so we've got 6/5. Remember, follow the same procedure. All we're going to do is take that fraction and we're going to multiply by 100%. Then of course we turn that percent into an improper fraction over 1, and we simply multiply numerator times numerator, denominator times denominator. 6 times 100% is 600%. 5 times 1 is 5. So we're going to divide 600% divided by 5. Okay, and we're going to use some short division here. 5 goes into 6 one time. We're going to do this work mentally. 6 minus 5 gives us 1. 1 is smaller here, so I'm going to carry that over, and we're looking at 10 now. 6 goes into 10 2 times, because 2 times 5 is 10. 10 minus 10 is 0, so nothing carries over, so 5 goes into 0 0 times. And our answer here for changing 6/5 into a percent is we're basically going to say that our answer is 120%. We do the same thing with 1/6. Again, we take that fraction and all we do is multiply by 100%. That's a whole number, so we're going to make it an improper fraction over 1 and simply multiply our numerators. Easy. 1 times 100% is 100%. 6 times 1 is going to give us 6. And then we divide. 100% divided by 6. 6 goes into 1 0 times. 6 goes into 10 1 time. 1 times 6 is 6. So 10 minus 6 is going to give us 4, so I'm going to put that 4 over there. We're looking at 6 into 40 now. So how many times does 6 go into 40 without going over? That's right, 6 times, because 6 times 6 is 36. Now, we're left with 40 minus 36 is going to give us another 4. So you've got options here. If you want to turn this into a fraction or a decimal or a percent, you're welcome to. I'm going to keep it in fraction form just for this one. So we'll notice that that's 16 and 4/6%, but we always have to check to reduce. Greatest common factor between 4 and 6 is 2. Okay, so this is going to become 16, and 4 divided by 2 is 2. 6 divided by 2 is 3. So 16 and 2/3%. We go on to 3/8 and we do the same thing. We take that fraction and we multiply by 100%, turn it into an improper fraction over 1, and we multiply our numerators. 3 times 100 gives us 300%. 8 times 1 gives us 8, and we divide numerator divided by denominator, and remember that's a percent there. So how many times does 8 go into 3? 0. How many times can 8 go into 30 without going over? That's right, 3 is 24. So 8 times 3 is 24. We're going to do the work mentally. 30 minus 24 we know is 6, so we're going to carry that 6 over, and we're looking at 60. So how many times does 8 go into 60 without going over? That's right, 7 times. 7 times 8 is 56, so that leaves us with a remainder of 4, right? Okay, so we're looking at 40. Now this time I'm going to do the decimal form. So I'm going to annex a decimal point here and a 0, and we're looking at 8 into 40. How many times can 8 go into 40? 5 times. 8 times 5 is 40. 40 minus itself is 0, so I'm looking at 37 and a half, or 0.5%. Or if we wanted to round it up, we could even do that and say 38%. So again, you've got options depending on what you like to do. Alright, one last problem. 1 over 30. We're going to take that and multiply by 100%. Turn that percent into an improper fraction over 1. Multiply the numerators. 1 times 100%. Easy, 100%. 30 times 1, easy again, 30. And we're going to divide. 100% divided by 30. Now this is a nice one because we've got zeros, so I'm going to cancel my zeros there, and now we're just looking at 3 into 10. 3 goes into 1, 0 times, into 10 3 times. 3 times 3 is 9, so we're doing the work in our head. 10 minus 9 is 1. We've got a remainder of 1 here. And let's go back to doing fractions. We've got 1 is smaller than 3, so we're okay. We've got 3 and a third percent. Alright, so turning fractions into percents is really as simple as just multiplying that fraction by 100%.